welcome to this episode of How It Works, Traditional Astrology. My name is Leonie Maritz and I am a traditional Western astrologer, and I'm going to be explaining to you a little bit about astrology, specifically tradition. So to start off, there are many branches of astrology, and my focus is traditional Western astrology and natal astrology, which is the study of the birth chart. Traditional astrology is different because it focuses on the classic planets, the classic 7, and it's quite rigid in its methods, and it's a very vast and detailed theory that originates back into medieval times. And the forefathers of such work were Dorotheus, Ptolemy, William Lilly, and that has been continued by more modern astrologers, modern time astrologers, let me say, Robert Hand, Robert Zoller, and John Frawley. Natal astrology looks at the entire birth chart. It is not simply your sun sign, which is what astrology has been reduced to or diluted to these days, is a sugary piece in a magazine telling you about your sun sign. When in truth, the birth chart and traditional astrology, the way that we study it, is looking at the birth chart in its totality. We take a snapshot of the sky at the exact moment of your birth, and we look at every aspect that is contained within that chart. All the planets, your ascendant. And that's where tradition draws the line. They look at the 7 planets and in your birth chart. However, modern astrology branches out to include things like the moon's nodes, asteroids, and the outer planets known as Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune. Whilst I'm breaking the law here by mentioning those, because traditional astrology discounts them, we have found that they provide some interesting insights, or if you're willing to be a little bit flexible, you can consider them when used carefully and appropriately. So traditional astrology at its core is the study of time and place, and it's the effect of the heavenly bodies on Earth. So by studying the movements of the celestial planets like the sun, the moon, and other planets, we observe the effects they have here on us as the humans and events on life on Earth. And that's where traditional astrology becomes really exciting, is because it offers very accurate prediction techniques when you study it properly. So let's go back. Let's go back a little bit. Traditional astrology started out as being a serious observational craft, and it was studied at university level as a prerequisite of university curriculum. It was as important as physics, mathematics, and medicine. A lot of medicine and surgery coincided with the accurate cycles and times of the moon, for example. And this was the fundamental seriousness with which astrology was esteemed and revered back in the day. With the influx of organized religion and various shifts and changes in the world and societal pressures, astrology lost its reputation for being an esteemed science, and it got diluted into sugary puff pieces that we see in magazines today, which are speculative and generalized, and focus simply on your sun as opposed to your totality, the multiple complexities that are contained within you and within your chart. So traditional astrology, we look far more detailed at the geometry and the mathematics and the aspects between your planets, and this shows us your strengths, your capabilities, themes for your life, and it can be astonishingly accurate in terms of prediction. The branches of astrology that I am working with are natal astrology, which is the birth chart of the person, and it looks at your personality, your strengths, your aptitudes, your emotional makeup, your ascendant, themes for your life, potentials for your career, etc., and a whole lot more. It looks at the whole chart. I also work with predictions, progress chart, solar return, perfections, and timing. This is what sets traditional astrology apart. Western astrology is the geometry and the mathematics and the algorithms that we use to predict events based on the accuracy of your birth time. We can give you astonishingly accurate insights. And that's what you can expect from a traditional astrology reading. Not only will you get a vast understanding of who you are as a person, and that will garner some self-acceptance, some self-understanding, and some motivation towards appreciating where the strengths in your chart are versus the weaknesses. It can also offer you a theme for your year ahead, a direction in what you most need or what you most feel or where your focus should be. And it can literally predict events down to the month and sometimes even to the day. However, disclaimer, as astrologers, we do allow ourselves to be wrong because we are, after all, only humans interpreting a cosmic language, a deeply ancient symbolic language that has been around since ancient Sumeria, also known as the Babylonians and also known as the Chaldeans. This is as far back as my branch of astrology goes. What else would I like to tell you about astrology? I think the most important thing I would like to say is that the difference between tradition and the other branches of astrology is its accuracy, its depth, and the fact that it requires several years of study to become an expert. I really hope you will explore traditional astrology and understand that it offers a lot of insight, but it is not a fated tool that removes your free will, which is often a common misconception. It provides us with the context of a situation. So it shows us the nature of a moment or the clarity of a situation, and it helps us to understand why choice matters most. It shows us where we can approach life with more insight and responsibility and how to make informed choices. That's what astrology offers you. It is not a fortune-telling, sensational entertainment trick. It's a legitimate guide to understanding yourself and your inner workings better, as well as your environment and the energies that are at play in your life at the moment, looking at cycles and time. It is not just guesswork or intuition. It is a mathematically, geometrically studied science where we predict based on cycles that have occurred in your life and that are going to occur based on what we can see. So it really helps us understand more about who we are and where we could be going. And it also helps us to understand where we might be stalling or stagnant or have impacts in our lives and what those reasons might be. And it can provide insights to improving those areas of our lives. And in a similar way, it can help us really appreciate our capabilities and strengths that we may have taken for granted. Because when you see it in the birth chart, you realize that that is something special that you have. Not everybody has that. So just to come around to another misconception about astrology is that it's a woo-woo science or a pseudoscience or anti-rational. That is not true. Everything in astrology is derived from theory, from myth, and from mythology, and from specific algorithms that have given us the various planetary motions, and we look at what goes into the birth chart. We look at things like the temperaments of the planets, the elements involved, the zodiac signs, the places in the houses, and the aspects between the planets. We look at a multitude of things when we are studying your chart. And so this is why you'll never just do one astrology reading in your life to understand yourself, but probably one every year around the time of your birthday. So I hope I've given you a bit of interest into astrology and that you now see it as a slightly deeper, more detailed craft of observation and interpretation instead of just a sugary piece in a magazine. And we hope to see you exploring your astrological birth chart soonest with a traditional Western astrologer. I'm Leonie Maritz, and this was Astrology Tradition, How It Works.